I've always lived alone, and for the most part, I believe that was enough. Silence had always been my companion, the kind that asks nothing but presence. But since I moved into this building, I realized that true silence is something else entirely. In my old apartment, the quiet was absolute. Whole days would pass with nothing but the ticking of the clock or the occasional groan of the pipes as hot water climbed through them. I remember coming home from work, dropping my bag to the floor, and feeling that familiar weight of emptiness. The most consistent sound was my own breathing. Sometimes I'd turn on the TV just to fill the space, not to watch, but to pretend there was life nearby. But not here. Here, even when I craved emptiness, it never came. The nights were filled with footsteps from the apartment above. Not loud, not heavy, but always there. A steady pacing, back and forth, sometimes deep into the night. As if whoever lived above me was trapped in a cycle of movement that never ceased. At first, I'll admit, it annoyed me. Then came the other sounds. An old radio, playing songs I'd never heard before. Scratched vinyl melodies from another time. The gentle scrape of furniture moving. A soft, muffled laugh that seemed to escape without permission. And then, something shifted. I began to wait for those sounds. My day didn't feel complete until, come evening, the footsteps began again upstairs. It was as if, even without a single word exchanged, that neighbor was proof that I wasn't as alone as I thought. I never saw him. Not once. I don't know what his voice sounds like. I don't know his age. But I know that sometimes he leaves the window open, and the scent of fresh coffee drifts into my living room just as I'm making my tea. And in those moments, the solitude that had followed me for years seemed to split open just enough for life to slip in. But that night, it wasn't footsteps or music that came from above. It was a crash. A sharp, metallic clatter, like a pan hitting the floor. I nearly jumped off the couch, and then, absolute silence. I waited for an apology shouted through the window, waited for any sound to reassure me that everything was okay. But nothing came. The ceiling went silent in a way that felt unnatural, and I found myself strangely on edge, as if I were somehow tethered to that apartment more than I should be. The next morning, as I opened my door to leave, I found a note tucked beneath the doormat. The handwriting was steady but rushed. Sorry about the noise. Dropped a pan. I'm not usually the kind to bother the neighbors. I smiled to myself, without meaning to. Held the note in my hands as if it were too precious to simply put away. And that same night, for the first time in years, I wrote a message that wasn't meant for myself. It's all right. I don't sleep early either. I folded the paper gently, slid it under his mat, and returned to my apartment. I lay in bed differently that night, as if I'd opened a door no one else could see. I didn't know it yet, but that moment was the beginning of something that would change everything. The next night, when I got home, there was another note under my door. Thanks for understanding. I like cooking late. It's when my mind finally quiets down. I promise not to drop anything else. I smiled to myself, not because of what the note said, but because I realized I had been waiting for it all day. As if every minute had been a countdown to that folded piece of paper on the floor. It felt silly to admit, but after feeling invisible for so long, it was like someone had finally started to see me. I replied without thinking too much. Late night cooking makes sense. I write at night too. Silence helps. I folded the note and climbed the stairs. Slipped it discreetly beneath his doormat, my heart pounding like I was committing some quiet rebellion. It was just paper, just ink, but it felt like I was smuggling something far more intimate. The next morning, I found another. You write? About what? I stood there, note in hand, longer than I'd like to admit. I don't know why I hesitated so much. Maybe because opening up to someone I'd never even seen was the strangest contradiction I'd ever lived. Still, I answered. About everything and nothing. Sometimes stories that never happened. Sometimes things I wish had. And just like that, it began. A note each night. And with each note, a piece of us. I found out he always listened to the same song on an old vinyl. He said it was the only one that kept the loneliness from screaming. He learned I preferred tea over coffee, but that I loved the smell of his coffee drifting through the window, spilling into my apartment with a piece of his life. I learned he worked strange hours, pacing through the night, which explained the footsteps above, and he learned I was awake too during those hours, writing sentences that might never become anything, but were my only way of holding the world together. It became a silent game, a connection made of folded notes and hurried handwriting. And still, it was more intimate than any conversation I've had face to face. Without noticing, I began to change my routine. Started coming home later on purpose, just to increase the chance of finding a new note. Some nights, I lay in bed with my eyes fixed on the ceiling, wondering if he was up there, right above me, writing the reply I was waiting for. There were nights I couldn't fall asleep until I heard the soft creak of the floorboards, his quiet signal that he too was awake. We'd never seen each other. And yet, slowly, I started to feel like I knew this stranger better than most people who had ever walked through my life. And deep down, a silent question kept echoing inside me. How can something so invisible feel so heavy? A few weeks passed like that. Notes going back and forth, carefully folded, waiting for us at the end of each day. I no longer knew if I came home to rest, or just to see if another piece of him was waiting beneath my door. The routine became part of my life, as if every piece of paper was a shared breath, a quiet reminder that someone out there truly saw me, until one of them hit differently. Sometimes I think you're the only person who hears me. The rest of the world is too loud to really see me. I held the paper for a long time, unable to move. The letters swam before my eyes, as if they were trying to etch themselves into my skin. A knot formed in my throat so tight I had to steady myself against the wall. I felt the same way. Invisible, even in a crowd. A transparent silhouette wandering the hallways of the world. And now, someone, just a few feet above me, understood that perfectly. That night, I couldn't focus on anything. My tea went cold by my side. The book I tried to read stayed open on the same page for hours. All I could think about was him. The sound of his footsteps that maybe were happening at that very moment. The possibility that he too was writing something for me. Until I made a decision. I climbed the stairs slowly, each step echoing in the corridor as if announcing my intention to the whole building. When I reached his door, I froze for a few seconds. My heart was beating so fast it felt like he could hear it from the other side. I raised my hand to knock. Footsteps. The soft creak of floorboards. He was there. So close that one single gesture could change everything. My hand hovered inches from the wood, frozen. Suddenly, the full weight of the mystery pressed down on me. That moment was a cliff's edge. If I knocked, everything would change. I would stop imagining and begin knowing. The face I'd invented during sleepless nights would become real. The voice I'd only dreamed of would have sound. What if it was less than I imagined? Worse. What if it was more? And I couldn't hold it. I stepped back, took a deep breath, trying to steady the tremble in my hands. I felt the cold surface of the door, a boundary between two worlds, fantasy and concrete life. Then I pulled from my pocket the note I'd already written, creased and worn from being held too tightly. I placed it gently on the floor, leaning it against the door. I had written it with the shaky handwriting of someone both confessing and fleeing. Maybe I'll never have the courage to knock. But I want you to know. I wait for every word from you like someone waiting for a miracle. And I walked back down the stairs. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if the whole building were trying to pull me back to that door. The next morning, when I opened mine, there was another folded note waiting in the usual spot. Maybe it's better this way. Sometimes imagining is safer than living. But know that I wait for you too, every night. I pressed the note against my chest, as if holding a secret too warm to be left out in the open. Closed the door behind me, and realized I was trembling, like someone who had just escaped something both dangerous and precious. The days that followed grew even quieter. Not because the notes had stopped. They were still there, discreet as ever, almost always waiting for me in the late afternoon like little gifts left in secret. But the silence had moved inside me, because the words had started to carry weight. They were no longer light messages, no longer just apologies for dropped pans or musings on music and coffee. They were confessions. I spent hours walking around the apartment today. I think I only stay sane because I know you're down there. Sometimes I write notes that are too long, then tear them up before I leave them at your door. I'm scared I'll say something I shouldn't. Do you ever feel like this is bigger than it's supposed to be? Each note felt like a sharp blade slicing through the silence of my home. I'd read them over and over until I knew every curve of his handwriting, as if I could uncover a hidden secret between the lines. Sometimes, I'd press the paper to my face, pretending it still carried his warmth. Other times, I'd fold it up and hide it in the back of a drawer, trying to act like it didn't mean so much. But it did. I began to realize my days were revolving around him. I'd get home early, just to see if a new note had arrived. I made excuses to stay in, just to hear his footsteps above me. Some nights, I'd leave the living room light on longer than usual, in the naive hope that maybe he'd know I was awake too. I wasn't waiting just for the notes anymore. I was waiting for the creak of floorboards, the soft drag of furniture, the faint clink of dishes, mundane sounds that had somehow become vital signs of a presence. And then I started asking myself, how far could this go? Was it possible to love someone I had never seen? Or was it just my loneliness clinging to the first hand that reached back? Sometimes I fantasized. I imagined the doorbell ringing, him standing there. Imagined the look on his face, the face I'd invented 1,000 times finally taking form, and the two of us laughing at how long we waited. Other times the fear would paralyze me, because what if the magic vanished the moment I saw him? What if the mystery was the only thing holding us together? I swayed between courage and cowardice, like someone walking a tightrope. There were nights I'd write long notes, revealing more than I should, then rip them into tiny pieces, ashamed of myself. Other nights, I'd write just one short line, sharp and guarded, and still feel like I'd said too much. The city seemed to mock my indecision. When it rained, the water trailing down the windows amplified my hunger for connection. And when the sun returned on clear mornings, the contrast was cruel. Out there, everything moved lightly, while inside me, something grew heavier. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I sat at my desk, paper and pen in hand, and wrote words that nearly brought me to tears. I don't know if I want to meet you. I'm afraid of losing what we have if I find out who you are. I folded the note with trembling fingers and slid it beneath his mat. The wait for a response was the longest yet. My heart would race with every step in the hallway, every shadow slipping past the crack beneath my door. His reply came quickly, as if he'd thought the same thing 1,000 times before. I understand. Maybe that's the whole point. Maybe we're just two strangers who meet best in the dark. I read those words again and again, until the ink felt etched into me. I felt both relief and vertigo. Relief, because he understood the fear that paralyzed me. Vertigo, because, in that moment, I realized we were trapped in an impossible dilemma. Continue living in this absence that connected us, or risk shattering the spell of the unknown. And for the first time, I realized I had no idea which one I'd choose. The night was strangely still. No footsteps, no music, no dragging furniture overhead. Just a heavy, dense silence, so thick it felt like it was pressing me down into the mattress. The ceiling, which once seemed to breathe with me, was now just cold concrete, still, indifferent. I sat on the bed, his last note still in my hands. I had read it so many times I could recite it by heart, like someone learning a prayer. Maybe we're just two strangers who meet best in the dark. The words echoed inside me like a sentence. I knew he was right. What existed between us only made sense like this. In absence, in imagination, in the invisible space filled by mystery. If I crossed that threshold, maybe there'd be nothing more than an ordinary person, with weary wrinkles and sleepless eyes. Maybe I'd be disappointed. Or worse, maybe he would be disappointed in me. To turn it into something real was too risky. It would be like turning on the light in the middle of a dream. The beauty vanishes in seconds, and everything becomes just a room, a wall, a routine. I picked up paper and pen. The silence around me guided my hand, and I wrote slowly, like someone carving out a goodbye they don't want to give. I'd rather imagine you. I'd rather the sound of your steps, the smell of your coffee, the folded notes that reach me. If I ever meet you, I risk losing you. And I don't want to lose you. Not like that. I folded the paper carefully, the edges scraping my fingers as if begging not to be let go. I climbed the stairs one last time. Each step heavier than the last, as if the whole building was trying to hold me back. When I reached his door, I stood still for a few seconds, my heartbeat pounding so loud it felt like it echoed inside his apartment. I left the note leaning against the door. I didn't wait for a response. I didn't want one. The next morning, I left early for work. The street was still wet from the rain that fell overnight, and every reflection on the pavement felt like a mirror reminding me of what I had left behind. When I came back, I noticed the note was no longer there. The door was still closed, as always. No sound came from within. No sign of life. I stepped into my apartment, and for the first time, the silence felt bigger than me. A silence that didn't comfort, but also didn't hurt. It simply was, filling every corner of the room, as if it had finally won. And still, there was a strange peace, an imperfect peace, but enough. Maybe we would never know who we truly were. Maybe we were just invisible neighbors, connected by absences and notes. Maybe our story was made of everything that never happened. Days later, I ran into the old lady from the second floor in the hallway. She always talks about the building like she was born between its walls. And almost without thinking, I asked if she knew the tenant in the apartment above mine. She frowned, surprised. The one upstairs? I hardly ever see anyone up there. Actually, I think it's been empty for months. Maybe it's rented but left vacant. Who knows? I smiled politely, but inside, everything fell apart. I climbed the stairs slowly, listening for any sound, any proof that she was wrong. But there was only silence. And in that moment, doubt became my constant companion. Had it all been real? Or had I simply projected the echo of my own loneliness onto the ceiling? I'll never know. Sometimes when the whole building sleeps, I still hear footsteps above me. I don't know if it's him, or just my loneliness learning how to make noise.